Have you ever gotten that, like, sinking feeling
Hmm.
where you're working so hard, but it feels like you're just
Yeah.
spinning your wheels financially?
Yeah.
Like you're not really getting anywhere?
Totally.
That's what we're going to be diving into today.
Okay.
Some, like, really counterintuitive signs of financial well-being.
Interesting.
And we're getting these signs from
Okay.
Nisha. She's a qualified accountant, and she used to be an investment banker.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So she definitely knows what she's talking about.
Yeah.
She shared this crazy stat on her YouTube channel.
Okay.
40% of people
Wow.
would not be able to cover
Oh, no.
even 1 month of expenses if they lost their job.
That's scary.
Yeah, it's a little terrifying.
It is.
It really got me thinking, are we focused on, like,
Yeah.
the wrong things when it comes to financial health?
Yeah. I think that's a really good question.
Yeah.
I think a lot of times we make the mistake of
Mm-hmm.
thinking that financial success is about what we see. So, like the fancy cars, designer clothes.
Right, yeah.
The big house.
It's all about appearances.
Exactly. And Nisha calls this the status game,
Oh.
which is basically, just constantly trying to keep up with everyone else.
Right, and making sure everyone knows how well you're doing.
Yeah, exactly. And that can be really dangerous because it takes our focus away from what really matters,
Okay.
which is what she calls the wealth game.
Okay, so what is that? What's the wealth game?
The wealth game is all about building a strong foundation of financial security,
I see.
regardless of what other people see or what they think.
Okay, so it's less about the bling and more about having that, like,
Right.
inner confidence,
Yes.
knowing you have a safety net even if things go wrong.
Yeah, it's about having that peace of mind,
Right.
knowing that you're going to be okay no matter what.
I can definitely relate to feeling that pressure to keep up with the Joneses, though,
Oh, yeah.
especially on social media.
Oh, it's so easy to get caught up in that.
It really is, yeah.
Yeah, because you're constantly bombarded with these
Yeah.
images of people who seem to have it all.
Yeah, picture perfect lives and everything.
Right, but what you don't see is what's
Right.
going on behind the scenes.
Yeah, you don't see the debt
Exactly.
or the struggle.
Yeah, and that's where the comparison game can really hurt us.
So true.
Nisha gave a great example about this.
Yeah.
She said, imagine someone driving like a really fancy luxury car.
Okay.
They might look super successful on the outside,
Mm,
but they could be drowning in debt, like one missed paycheck away from losing everything.
right.
They might be playing the status game,
Hmm.
but they're not winning the wealth game.
Oh, that's such a good point.
Yeah, it's like judging a book by its cover.
Yeah.
You're assuming that outward appearances equal financial stability.
Totally. And speaking of comparisons,
Yes.
that actually leads us perfectly into the second sign
Okay.
that Nisha highlighted.
Mm-hmm.
It's all about being mindful of who we're comparing ourselves to.
Oh, that's so important.
It is.
Yeah.
She actually mentioned a study that showed that
Oh.
our financial satisfaction is hugely influenced by our peers' income.
Oh, wow.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense
Yeah.
because it's not just about like the number on your paycheck.
Yep.
It's about where you see yourself
Yeah.
in comparison to other people.
Right.
So for example, let's say you make like $40,000 a year.
Okay.
According to this research, you're probably going to feel
Yeah.
way more dissatisfied if you're hanging out with people who make $50,000 a year
Okay.
than if you're hanging out with people who make $30,000 a year.
So it's all relative.
Exactly, it's all relative.
That's so wild.
Yeah, it's like our brains are wired to constantly be comparing.
Yeah, and it just leads to wanting more and more.
Yes, it's like a never-ending cycle.
Right. Like, how do we break free from that?
Well, Anisha's advice is to focus on your own financial journey
Okay.
instead of trying to keep up with other people.
So instead of worrying about
Right.
what our friends are buying
Yes.
or how much money they make,
Exactly.
we should be focusing on
Yeah.
creating our own goals
Yes.
and making a plan to reach them.
Exactly. It's about shifting your mindset from
Right.
keeping up to building up.
I love that.
Yeah.
Shifting from keeping up to building up.
Mm-hmm.
So what are some things we can do to, like, build up?
Okay. Well, one of the most important things
Okay.
is to create a budget.
Okay.
And it doesn't have to be super complicated.
Right.
Just having a clear picture of
Yeah.
where your money's going can be really helpful.
Okay.
And then you can start thinking about building an emergency fund.
Yeah.
Even if it's just like a little bit
Mhm.
every month, anything helps.
Right. Yeah. It all adds up.
Exactly.
It seems like a big part of this is also about being happy
Yes.
with what we already have
Absolutely.
rather than always wanting more.
Yeah. It's
Mm.
about recognizing that true wealth isn't about like the size of your bank account or the fancy
Right.
things you own. It's about having the freedom
Yeah.
to live the life you want,
Right.
a life that's aligned with your values.
Okay, so just to recap,
Yes.
the two main signs of financial well-being are,
Okay.
number one, focusing on building wealth,
Yes.
not just status.
Right.
And number two, being careful about who we compare ourselves to.
That's great.
So to leave everyone with something to think about,
Right.
what does the wealth game look like to you?
That's a good question.
Yeah. And what can you do to shift your focus
Mm-hmm.
away from what other people think
Yeah.
and towards building real security
Yeah.
and financial freedom?
That's a great takeaway.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us
Of course, it was my pleasure.
for this deep dive
Yeah,
into financial well-being.
it was a good one.
We'll see you next time for another deep dive.
Sounds good.
Bye.
Bye.